So hello everyone. Now today we have this GS paper 2 and UPSC has conducted this particular paper, and now from that paper we are going to discuss governance section. Governance section we are going to discuss in this particular lecture. And if you see on an average, if you see from the governance portion, 4 questions are being asked. 2 questions are from 10 marker and 2 questions from 15 marker on an average. But in 2024, this number rose to 6 questions and thereby 3 questions from 10 marker and 3 questions from 15 marker. But this year, again, the trend changed to the status quo, and thereby you'll be finding that they have asked 4 questions, that is 2 questions 10 marker and 2 questions 15 marker. Now with this, now you have to understand that out of all of these 4 questions, that is they have been there from the PYQ theme, most important theme from the PYQ. If you see all of these questions and if you see those PYQs and categorize them, you'll be finding that the most important theme were e-governance, or for example the civil society organizations, pressure groups, or for example multiple of those aspects related to the problems with respect to policies, and also in terms of with role of civil society in the role of civil services in a democracy. Now if you see with respect to this crash course I have conducted, almost all the questions have been there from that particular module that I have taken, and let me show you as well. And if you see this particular module, I have taken all of these themes. If you see, the first theme I have taken is citizen charter, then I have taken e-governance, then I have also taken, that is citizen charter, e-governance, RTI, and with respect to that is digital literacy in the rural development, civil services reform, role of NGO, works, or for example Lokpal or pressure group. Now if you see this year as well, अगर आप इस बार का पेपर भी देखते हैं, you'll be finding that UPSC Mains 2025 was surrounding around these particular theme, that is e-governance, civil society organization, pressure groups, and top-down or bottom-up developmental models. Now you have to understand that is these are very recurring themes, and thereby UPSC has asked these pertinent themes again and showing that now they will be asking questions from the PYQ themes, and you have to be very alert while doing all of those PYQs, and you have to ensure mastery in all of those aspects. Now if you see question number 1, they are asking that is with respect to governance, that is question number 7. 7वां क्वेश्चन अगर आप देखेंगे तो क्वेश्चन इज रिगार्डिंग e-governance projects have built-in bias toward technology and back-end integration than the user-centric design. That is, now in this particular question they are asking that is e-governance projects in India, they have built-in bias toward technology and back-end integration than the user-centric design, and thereby, for example, if you see COVID app, for the straight 2 years, Supreme Court says this, for the straight 2 years, this particular app was in English medium, and thereby how many of you, the population in India, they actually understand English, and thereby it has been said that is only 12% of these Indians do actually understand English. And understanding this particular aspect, you have to see that is COVID app was majorly, for example, confined towards only 12%, catering to only 10 to 12% of the population. That is, it was in the exclusionary aspects. That is, for example, COVID app exclusions have been there. For example, if you see Aadhaar enabled PDS reporting in Jharkhand, it has led toward death of 71 people, and thereby we always see that is approximately on a every year basis, you'll be finding that multiple of those exclusions happen with respect to Aadhaar enabled PDS system as well. So here you have to introduce e-governance from World Economic Forum definition, and you start with use of ICT in delivering government services, and thereby mention various kind of values like transparency and accountability, and then mention one data given by TRAI, that is Telecom Regulatory Authority of India. It says that approximately 8, for example, here with respect to 800 million population has this, for example, in India, we have 800 million population as an internet user. That is, India ranks second in the world. India ranks second in the world with respect to internet users. Now, if you see this, now this is how you will be introducing, and thereby you will be focusing upon the body wala part, why existing bias has been there. Now, if you see this here, top down developmental model has been there. That is, these policies have been formulated at the top level without considering the real needs and demands of those people at the ground. And this is the major problem with respect to, that is, colonial bureaucracy, and thereby this particular point you'll be writing. For example, that is, digital infrastructure is still being poor. For example, this digital penetration in the rural area has still been very, very low, and thereby you'll be finding that is digital infrastructure in the poorer areas are poor, for example, are very less. Even if you see language issue, for example, we were discussing with respect to Cowin app, and you have already seen those aspects. That is, Cowin app was, for example, made in English medium for straight 2 years. Similarly, if you see other particular app as well, you'll be finding that they are majorly being confined to certain particular languages, and thereby it is creating language barrier in the aspects of accessing those services with respect to those people. Then, with respect to exclusion of the vulnerable groups, yes, all of those aspects, yes. And then digital divide. From the aspect of digital divide, National Family Health Survey, only 33% of the rural women have access to the smartphone. Now, you will be mentioning this particular data as well, digital divide का data बता दीजिए आप. National Family Health Survey 5th कहता है कि only 33% rural women have access to the smartphones, and lack of grievance redressal mechanism. अगर कोई शिकायत होगी भी तो शिकायत का निवारण कैसा होगा उसके बारे में वो नहीं बताएंगे, and thereby no proper accountability being fixed, and thereby these are not, for example, in line with user centric designs. So that aspect, and thereby provide way forward, like second ARC have advocated for the citizen-centric governance and local language accessibility in the e-services. So mention about that. Second ARC ने कहा है कि citizen-centric governance के बारे में. Yes. For example, also talk about METI guidelines. That is, for example, in the terms of guidelines for Indian government website, now mandate multilingual support. That is, METI ने बोला है, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, they have said this, that is those particular websites should be supporting multiple languages, and thereby there should not be any kind of language barrier. Are you guys getting or not? And then Niti Aayog Digital India report also says that is recommended for AI driven adaptive interfaces and feedback based iterative improvements, and thereby we are also focusing upon that is big data analytics, and also in the aspects of grievance redressal mechanism. So that is also very, very important. For example, National Digital Health Mission suggested for the inclusion of digital health ambassador to assess citizens and onboarding navigations. In those terms you talk about, that is National Digital Health Mission, इसने suggest किया है कि digital health ambassador to assist citizens, and thereby there in the ground also various people or should be there in the helping. Otherwise, what will happen if these people are not being empowered? There will be always be information asymmetry with respect to those people. तो अगर वो उनको empower ही नहीं किया जाएगा, तो what will happen? That is, those services will not be accessed, and thereby that is the prime objective of those services will not be fulfilling. Then, for example, PM Disha as well. That is, it aims to digitally empower 60 crore citizens by 2026, focusing upon rural women, that is elderly, disabled, through community digital centers, and thereby that is PM Disha in terms of, for example, providing all of those services to the vulnerable groups. Also, Diksha portal, with respect to providing Diksha portal, you will be finding that Diksha portal is also been there. कि अगर आप Diksha portal को देखते हैं तो thereby we have also discussed in the class Diksha portal, and thereby you will be finding that is digital literacy should be provided to those people who are not knowing all of those aspects, and thereby that is providing empowerment. Empowerment should be done. Then next particular aspect is with respect to that is you will be providing those conclusions. You will be providing those conclusions in the terms of, for example, we have already seen that second ARC has said this, that is building a congenial environment is very, very important. That is sign up to a known for successful implementation of e-governance, and thereby keep it simple and small model. That is KISS model we have discussed in the class. And also you have to talk about that is NEGA, National E-Governance Enterprise Architecture. See, in the classes also we have discussed all of these aspects. Remember this particular issue we have discussed here, यूजर सेंट्रिक डिजाइन इश्यूज एंड देयरबाय कोविन ऐप का एग्जांपल हम लोगों ने देखा था. ये हमारी क्लास का हैंड आउट है और इसमें आप डायरेक्टली देखिए यूपीएससी मेंस 2025 में यहां से सवाल आ चुका है. मेंस 2025 में यहां से सवाल आ चुका है यूपीएससी मेंस 2025 में. दैट इज क्लियरली इंडिकेटिंग दैट इज यूजर सेंट्रिक डिजाइन इश्यूज आर बीइंग देयर एंड देयरबाय प्रोवाइड कंक्लूजन इन द टर्म्स ऑफ दैट इज सेकंड एआरसी. Second ARC कहता है that is building a congenial environment is a sign up to a known for the successful implementation of e-governance and thereby keep it simple and small model and also national e-governance enterprise architecture. That is how you will be making your introduction, body, conclusion. If you will be writing and all of these in this format and also making those diagram of SMART, make the diagram of SMART as well. That is यहां पर आप एक डायग्राम और बना सकते हैं. डायग्राम क्या हो सकता है? दैट इज स्मार्ट, दैट इज सिंपल, मोरल, अकाउंटेबल, responsive and transparent. Are you guys getting or not? In all of these aspects you have to talk about. Are you guys getting or not? Yes, with respect to that we have already done. Now see, next particular question is regarding that is civil society organization. Civil society organization. These are often perceived as being anti-state actors than non-state actors. Do you agree and justify? Now, if you see that is with respect to civil society organization, we have already talked in the topic of NGOs and we have told that multiple of those problems have been there with respect to multiple of these CSOs, and we have seen the funding constraint has been there. Thereby, Ministry of Home Affairs has brought the various kind of reform in the Foreign Contribution Regulations Act, and Ministry of Home Affairs says this, that is there is a doubt on their genuineness. There is a doubt on their genuineness. And thereby this particular aspect has been asked, that is non-state actor, that is कि state हम लोगों ने देखा है कि state है और market है और then civil society organization है. तो इसके और इसके बाहर क्या आता है? CSO है. क्या है ये? State है और ये है market. तो civil society organization क्या है? It is a non-state actor. It is a non-state actor. But sometimes it acts as a anti-state actors. Sometimes it acts as a anti-state actors as well. And thereby, if you see this aspect, that is you have to bring about those challenges we have talked about on the topic of NGOs, on the topic of pressure group, on the topic of CSOs. All of those aspects you will be bringing here and thereby justifying this particular aspect as well. So here, for example, if you see our notes also, you'll be finding that यहाँ पर हम लोगों ने ये सारे ही एस्पेक्ट पे डिस्कस किया था, और अगर आप पाएंगे तो यहाँ पर हम लोगों ने एनजीओ और दैट इज फॉर एग्जांपल प्रेशर ग्रुप के बारे में हम लोगों ने डिस्कस किया हुआ है. तो दैट इज कैन सिविल सोसाइटी ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस ऑफन परसीव्ड एज एंटी स्टेट एक्टर्स. So first of all, for example, provide CSO definition. So in the introduction itself, what you should be writing? You should be writing about that is CSO definitions. CSO definition, that is it is a non-state actor, not for profit organization working for the people's interest, and thereby make that diagram. Yes, make that diagram of state, market and civil society organization, and thereby, for example, mention this as a non-state actor, that is CSO's role. Slight bit about role has to be given, and then you have to mention about that is challenges. You have to mention about those challenges. In those terms of challenges, what you should be doing? First, you should be talking about that is we have already seen, that is, for example, there is one report of CBI which says this, that less than 10% of these NGOs file their annual financial statement. For example, that is, you are mentioning about CBI statement and thereby mentioning about that particular point of, that is, there is a lack of accountability aspect. Yes, for example, also talk about Ministry of Home Affairs. Ministry of Home Affairs says that there is a doubtness in their genuineness. For example, multiple of those corrupt activities have been found with respect to working of these CSOs. For example, also talk in terms of, for example, with respect to IB report, that is proactiveness of multiple of these CSOs or, for example, NGOs are, for example, creating, for example, hamper in our developmental activities with respect to 2 to 3%. And then you should also talk about in terms of multiple of other problems as well. Are you guys getting or not? And then if you have done this, also talk about that is funding constraints, that is funding issues. That is, sometimes we see that multiple of these CSOs are also being involved in that is, for example, terrorist related activities. And we have seen certain kind of those issues with respect to Kudankulam nuclear power plant as well. If you see in that particular project, and thereby we were making those particular project with the assistance of Russia, and thereby we have seen that all of a sudden multiple of those people have started suddenly coming up and thereby protesting against this Kudankulam nuclear power project. And then what happened that after certain kind of research or investigation being done by multiple of our state authority, it was being found that these are being done by multiple of those NGOs like Greenpeace NGOs, and thereby they are being funded by multiple of those countries like USA and Germany. And that is, for example, they are propagating their interest. In that sense, you have to talk about in this particular issue, and thereby you will be doing those justification and conclusion. That is, you will be doing those conclusion. Banega ye question? Yes, this question was also very easy in those sense. For example, इसके पुराना वाला जो क्वेश्चन था, देखिए हम लोगों ने पूरा ये हैंडआउट ही डिस्कस किया है. तो आप देखिए पूरे हैंडआउट में ही हम लोगों ने डिस्कस किया था, that is with respect to user centric designs are not being there. We have discussed about way forward also, and thereby doing those conclusion in the terms of conclusion कैसे किया था हम लोगों ने, that is building a congenial environment is a sine qua non for successful implementation of e-governance, that is keep it simple and small model, capacity building and national e-governance enterprise architecture. Are you guys getting or not? Yes. Then next point is regarding, that is next question is regarding what are the environmental pressure group, and discuss their role in raising awareness, influencing policies and advocating for environmental protection. That is, what are the environmental pressure group? Question has been asked from the topic of environmental pressure group, and thereby we have discussed pressure group, and then we have discussed all of their role. We have also discussed, that is, for example, environmental NGOs, those are working, and thereby you can easily tackle those questions. For example, you will be starting with environmental NGO as a, for example, they are, for example, multiple of those non-state interest-based group, and thereby they are influencing public policy and social behavior, and thereby this include NGOs as well, people's movement, think tanks also, and thereby informal network of activists as well. And then you talk about कैसे वो करते हैं, they play vital role in the format of raising those public awareness. Talk about those. For example, you also talk about they influence policies. For example, Center for Science and Environment has, for example, led to the formulation of National Clean Air Program, NCAP, that is National Clean Air Program. For example, legal advocacy has been there. That is, for example, environmental support groups have also focused upon this, for example, formulation of, that is, legal initiative for forest and environment. Yes, you can also talk about community mobilization, thereby monitoring and research. We have already discussed all of those aspects, like acting as a watchdog, bridging the gap. They also bridge the gap. That is, we were seeing that they are, for example, that is in the they act as a bridge between the state and the citizens. है कि नहीं? So in all of those aspects you will be talking. Yes, and thereby do those conclusion in the terms of, that is government should institutionalize those agreement with such group in the environmental impact assessment. That is TSR Subramaniam committee का discussion करिए on the environmental governance. Also talk about Darpan portal of NGO, and then For example, transparency and compliance, strengthen environmental education to create informed citizens base, and thereby that is environmental pressure group are pillars of participatory democracy, and that is how you should be concluding, providing necessary check on exploitative practices, and thereby they ensure SDG 13, that is climate action, and SDG 15, that is life on land. For example, this was a handout of the pressure group that I have given to the class, and then we have defined this pressure group, that is group of people with a similar interest. They put pressure on the government to formulate and implement policies, and thereby we have also given the second in ARC definition, that is they aim to influence public policy and decisions without seeking political power through elections. And then we have also discussed about multiple of those ways through which they influence, like petition, prayer, and protest, people electing to the legislature, bandh and hartal, large public meeting, lobbying, media, think tank, all of those. For example, these environmental pressure group क्या करते होंगे? प्री बजट कंसल्टेशन करते होंगे, पॉलिसी एडवोकेसी करते होंगे. फॉर एग्जांपल इन्वायरमेंटल इकोनॉमिक पॉलिसी इन्फ्लुएंस, यहाँ हम लोगों ने बिजनेस के बारे में बात किया था, आप इन्वायरमेंटल के बारे में बात करिए, जैसे कि इंटरनेशनल ट्रेड पॉलिसी ऑल्सो, दैट इज पब्लिक प्राइवेट पार्टनरशिप, ease of doing business में भी help करते हैं, and thereby also talk in terms of, for example, multiple of those tools. Yes, you can easily address this and then doing those conclusion in the terms of prakriti, rakshati, rakshita as well, and thereby you can easily do those. Are you guys getting or not? Yes. And see, this was the question from the handout I have given, and this was the question we have already done in the class. हम लोगों ने क्लास में किया था ये क्वेश्चन, सबको याद होगा. How can the role of NGO be strengthened in India for the developmental work relating to protection of environment, and discuss throwing light on the major constraint. And thereby we have already discussed all of those aspects. सारे ही aspect को हम लोगों ने यहाँ पर discuss किया था. For example, we have started with the definition, and then we have given role like policy involvement, capacity building, financial support, networking and collaboration, community participation, awareness and education. Then we have talked about issues and way forward and conclusion. Yes. Next particular question was with respect to that is regarding in contemporary development model, decision making and problem solving. Yes. That is in contemporary development models and decision making and problem solving, responsibilities are not located close to the source of information and execution, defeating the objectives of development, and thereby critically evaluate. That is, they are talking about top-down type of bureaucracy. That is top-down type of policy making. That is, they are talking about contemporary development model are inclined toward, that is, bureaucratic structures, and thereby that is they often rely on the top-down planning and driven by centralized institutions. That is centralized institutions. However, effective development requires contextual decision making. मतलब ग्राउंड में लोगों को क्या चाहिए, आपको वो समझाना है. For example, at ground level, what people actually require, what they demand, and according to their demand and need, those policies should be fitted. That is, which is best achieved when decisions are made closer to the committee. That is, this is also being called as principle of subsidiarity. प्रिंसिपल ऑफ सब्सिडियरिटी, दैट इज जो लेवल पे, जिस भी लेवल पे जो पॉलिसीज बहुत इफेक्टिव हो सकती हैं, उसी लेवल पे वो पॉलिसीज बननी चाहिए, है कि नहीं? कि आप ग्राउंड लेवल के लिए लोगों के लिए आप सेंट्रल सेक्रेटरीट दिल्ली में, मान लीजिए कि मैं केरला में कोई गांव है, उसमें फॉर एग्जांपल नाउ फॉर दोस पर्टिकुलर एरियाज वी वांट टू मेक पॉलिसीज, नाउ कैन इट बी मेड इन द एट द सेंट्रल लेवल? नो, बिकॉज दे विल नॉट बी नोइंग, दे कैन नॉट गॉज इन दोस पर्टिकुलर इश्यूज. फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर आप देखेंगे एमजी नरेगा है, एमजी नरेगा में अगर आप देखेंगे तो एमजी नरेगा में हमें क्या मिलता है? 100 दिन का रोजगार मिलता है कि नहीं मिलता है? क्या मिलता है हमें? 100 डेज एम्प्लॉयमेंट मिलता है. इफ यू सी दिस, पंजाब और हम लोग एक एग्जांपल लेते हैं बिहार का. किसका एग्जांपल लेते हैं? पंजाब और बिहार का. तो यहाँ पंजाब में आप देखेंगे 3 क्रॉपिंग सीजन है, तो शायद क्योंकि यहाँ पर इरिगेटेड लैंड है, तो शायद एमजी नरेगा यहाँ पर उतना नहीं चाहिए जितना हमें फॉर एग्जांपल बिहार या फिर राजस्थान में चाहिए. राजस्थान में तो अगर आप देखेंगे तो राजस्थान में देयर इज नो, मतलब वेरी लेस इरिगेटेड लैंड, एंड देयर बाय दैट इज मोर ऑफ दिस एमजी नरेगा is being required here. So here one size fit all approach is not applicable. One size fit all is not applicable to your friends, and thereby what we say, that is, we have to make those policies at the ground level, at those local level where they are very, very effective. In those sense, we have to discuss this particular question. For example, here policy implementation disconnect has been there. That is, central schemes like Smart Cities Mission or Digital India often ignore local capacity and needs, leading to poor outcomes and underutilization. Limited local autonomy has been there. As per RBI 2023 report on local governments, only 15% of Gram Panchayat have functional control over funds and functionary. For example, centralized welfare delivery has been there. For example, अब क्या होगा कि अगर for example Aadhaar based DBTs have caused delays in MG Narega payment, and thereby that is wage payment arrears have been there. Yes, wage payment delays has been there with respect to MG Narega has been there. Lack of contextual problem solving will be there. For example, problem कुछ और है, आप solution कुछ और बता रहे हैं. For example, weak urban local bodies, yes, and thereby what will happen, that is, now there has been also one of the trend that is being seen in the RBI's report, that is, those local bodies are not getting those sufficient fund, and thereby those fund have been decreasing in the continuous basis. अब आपको अगर ये पैटर्न समझ में आ रहा है, so you will be understanding that is it will be making our local bodies very, very weak, and thereby that is those funds will not be reaching, for example, at the ground. Will be, for example, those functionaries are having plagued by those colonial mentality, that is treating themselves as a for example masters and others as a subjects. For example, there will be also in terms of, now we are seeing in our budget also, they are always talking in terms of outlays, in the terms of line budgets, not in the terms of outcomes, and thereby in those terms you have to talk about, for example, in the terms of functionality as well, that is in the terms of efficiency as well. At the ground level you will be talking, and thereby if all of those functionary and functionality is not implementable on the ground, thereby it will be leading toward the bad governance. It will be leading toward, for example, poor governance structure in the for example in our developmental economy, and thereby we have to focus upon making this principle of subsidiarity effective. That is, जिस लेवल पे जहां पर जो पॉलिसी बहुत ही इफेक्टिव हो पाए, वहीं पर वो पॉलिसीज को बनाई जानी चाहिए, and thereby we have to discuss all of these aspects here. Are you guys getting or not? For example, you can also talk in terms of way forward, like implement second ARC recommendations. Yes, that is, for example, increase physical devolution based on 14th and 15th Finance Commission. Build capacity of those local government. For example, digital capacity building should be there. Digital capacity building, for example, Meti of 2024. Promoting community planning under the schemes like Swamitwa and Mission Antyodaya. Enable real-time data and feedback loops. Yes, in those terms you'll be talking about from the ground level for the better adaptability. And as Mahatma Gandhi envisioned, real India lives in villages for development to be inclusive, sufficient and sustainable, and thereby relate with SDG 16. Now with this, what we have seen, dear friends, with this, अगर आप देखोगे तो we have discussed here the aspect related to the governance, and if you see from the aspects of the governance, you'll find that majority of these questions are coming from the sections. If you have been seeing, अगर आप अगले साल के प्रिपेयर कर रहे हैं तो आपको ये समझ में आएगा कि what are those majority of those themes. अगर आप देखेंगे तो फर्स्ट थीम that is very very important जो हर साल पूछता है यूपीएससी, वो था e-governance. Now, if you see from the e-governance perspective, you should be knowing, for example, how you should be doing those introduction. We have talked in the terms of World Economic Forum definition, and thereby ensure that you have one data and one diagram to represent. And then they can ask about any contextual issues also, general issues also, and thereby you can also be asked with respect to multiple of those aspects. Then you, for example, here, this year they have talked about, that is, user-centric designs have not been there. User-centric designs have not been there. Yes, has not been there. ये वाला जो एस्पेक्ट था, इसके ऊपर क्वेश्चन था, यूजर सेंट्रिक डिजाइन हैज नॉट बीन देयर. वो पूछ सकते हैं, जनरल इश्यूज भी पूछ सकते हैं. वो क्या पूछ सकते हैं, इंटरैक्टिव सर्विस मॉडल के इश्यूज भी पूछ सकते हैं. यस, फॉर एग्जांपल इंटरैक्टिव सर्विस मॉडल भी पूछ सकते हैं. क्या है, इंटरैक्टिव सर्विस मॉडल्स भी वो पूछ सकते हैं. यस, नाउ दे विल बी टॉकिंग इन ऑल ऑफ दोस टर्म्स. सो अगर आपको ये समझ में आया तो ई गवर्नेंस का क्वेश्चन आपसे, for example, if you have done in all of those aspects, do those way forward given by the standard organizations, all of those we have covered in our notes, और सारे questions, all of those questions were डायरेक्टली फ्रॉम आवर नोट्स। तो अगर आप देखेंगे कि नोट्स में तो सारी चीजें ही मेंशन्ड है, and thereby you should be addressing all of those aspects. For example, if you talk about second question, they were talking about CSOs, that is civil society organization. Second question उनका क्या था? Second question they were asking about, that is about, for example, one was with respect to pressure group. Then second question they have asked about CSOs, civil society organization, and thereby we have to talk about all of those CSOs. हमको क्या पढ़ना है? CSOs के बारे में अच्छे से स्टडी करनी है। Are you guys getting or not? सबको समझ में आ रहा है क्या पढ़ना है हमें? CSOs के बारे में what they have to talk, क्या बोला है उन्होंने? CSOs में क्वेश्चन क्या पूछा था कि civil society organization often perceived as anti-state actors rather than the non-state actors. Non-state actors in what term they are saying? In non-state actors in what term they were saying? That is, for example, after those industrial revolution, what happened that two agencies got into prominence, that is state and market. State and market. Remember, friends, state and market. But both of these agencies, they started exploiting citizen itself, and thereby common exploitation of these citizens happened, and thereby there was a need from the local organization, from the ground level itself. There should be certain kind of bodies which has to be formed to empower these citizen itself. अब इस citizen को empower करने के लिए we had this civil society organizations. Even after the World War II, we have seen that prominence of, for example, rise in these CSOs. Now, if you see these CSOs, you'll be finding that is they are acting as a non-state actor in terms of empowering people. For example, if you see participatory research in Asia, they are focusing upon the women empowerment, focusing upon the local development, local level development in terms of empowering people at the ground level. And thereby, for example, we have also discussed the example of the Hunger Project, and thereby in the Asia, they are working in multiple of those countries. And you will be mentioning all of those aspects here. Then what you should be doing, अब आप क्या करोगे कि अब ये सब समझाने के बाद will be also mentioning कि sometimes it also be seen as a anti-state actors. Anti-state actors in what sense? Will be saying that is, for example, there are multiple of those funding issues, developmental issues, for example, in their issues in their working, for example, also issues with respect to, for example, they are not showing their annual financial statement. Also talk in terms of, for example, lack of, for example, trained personnel has been there, nepotism, favoritism has been there. In all of those terms you will be talking about, and thereby you also talk about those terms like, for example, NGO का FCRA में जो reforms है 50% to 20% reduce हुआ है, and thereby substantiate with those kind of data, and thereby do those conclusion. Are you guys getting or not? And then next question was very, very easy with respect to, for example, environmental pressure group, and you will be talking in those terms. For example, environmental pressure group in the terms of their role, and then आपको अगर प्रेशर ग्रुप की जनरल रोल भी पता है तो you can easily tackle, if you know the some of these pressure groups example or NGOs example or CSOs example, you can easily address this type of question of roles as well. And then last question was very, very easy, very, very simple in terms of, for example, that is those aspect of principle of subsidiarity, that is लोकल लेवल पे सारी चीजें इफेक्टिव होनी चाहिए, and then only those developmental trajectory will be going toward the good governance. See, dear friends, I have attached in this particular document all the handout that and the class notes which I have given in the class, for example, and we have dictated in the class. So now you refer to this, and thereby you're finding that all of these questions have been there from our classes itself. Yes, class से ही सारे क्वेश्चन आए थे. So in that sense, you should be, for example, giving your best in all of these parameters, right? So with this, we are closing this particular discussion. So thank you so much. We will be meeting again with discussion of, for example, ethics portion. हम लोग ethics का discussion देखेंगे जब पेपर ये हो जाएगा, and we will be discussing this paper of ethics. Ethics का पेपर डिस्कशन करेंगे हम लोग, बहुत ही अच्छे से देखेंगे. थोड़ा वेट करेंगे आप, हम डिस्कस करने वाले हैं 29th को. I will be discussing on 29th. Why? Because I have some issues in my home, so with respect to my mom's health as well. तो I'll not be there. तो मैं ethics का जो discussion होगा वो 29th को करूंगा, and thereby I'll be showing you how to. अगर आपको ये पेपर मिलता है, and those who have studied from me, and for example in our batch multiple of those people have been there even in the mains crash course, and recently we have completed one other foundation batch as well. तो अब आप ये देखेंगे कि you will be getting, I'll be showing you how to get 140 plus marks in such kind of papers as well. That will be a foolproof strategy as well. So stay tuned for that, and do let me know how you felt while if you have attempted this paper. So how you felt about this particular paper, were you confident or not? If you are being part of governance crash course, or for example if you are a part of Shubhra Ranjan IAS study, then you will be definitely finding yourself in that confident position with respect to addressing those questions. So please ensure that you go through these and thereby and also tell me that is have you got those confidence or not. So with that intent, let's close this discussion. Thank you so much.